I think that as a competitor, like whenever I was playing sports, whenever I'm at jiu-jitsu or whatever, which I haven't been for about a year now, but I'm going back this week. Just saying that, so I put it out into the universe. As a competitor, I want to finish the highest place possible. I don't care whether it means much to the grand scheme of things, but the confidence boost of being like, we came into the season as Eastern Conference champions. We finished the season as the best team, the team with the best record in the Eastern Conference. Those type of things might not mean much in the grand scheme, but for a psyche, for a locker room, I think that can be galvanizing. Like, yo, we did what we were meant to do. We're the Eastern Conference champs. We came in, we finished first. Finishing second's fine. Like, you know, it is what it is. Does it matter in the grand scheme of things? Maybe. Like, it depends who finishes eighth, right? And who, like, it's really hard to look at now. There's a playing tournament, because before you could be like, right, this team's going to finish eighth. That matchup's not great. The team finishing seventh would be a better matchup. You know, being second isn't that bad.
And Greg kind of brought this up the other night, because he was saying, you know, and I think this is a general consensus. If we could, we prefer to avoid Miami in the first round, not because we're not going to beat Miami, but that's a shit show of a first round. We've seen Miami too many times. And number one, just for my mental health and my love of basketball, I just personally do not enjoy Celtics Heat games. I just think it's like, I enjoy that there's more physicality to it, but at times it doesn't even feel like basketball, and it's just such a slugfest. Yeah, it's just such a slugfest. And so, you know, that's, to your point that you're making here, that's kind of the team you're eyeing, like, man, we could probably beat them, but just if now we have to go through, and let's just say the Celtics end up at, you know, right now the Heat are, I think they're a half game behind Brooklyn right now for that 6th seed. And like you said, with the play-in, this makes it so chaotic, because even if they end up in that 7th seed, they would probably beat Atlanta in a 7-game series, no problem. One game, Trae Young goes off for 50 points, and, you know, something happens, like that could totally happen. And all of a sudden the Hawks are 7 seed and the Heat are the 8. And now, you know, whether you got the 1 seed or not, you're still facing that same issue.
Yeah, it's
of
a loss,
playing the
right?
Heat. Yeah,
And
a win is a loss.
Tournament. Look, I love the playing tournament for adding additional competition at the end of the season, making the final games of the year more meaningful. But I do think it's had a negative effect on the trade deadline. And I think it's had a negative effect on teams figuring out how they want to play. I mean, again, this goes against what I just said, because it makes you competitive.
Yeah, it makes you play it through.
But if I'm Boston and I'm like, man, I could finish first and get a worse matchup than finishing second, screw it. I'm going to kind of take my foot off the gas a little bit. You get that, right? But then you have to like be like, well, with Philadelphia breathing down your neck, the 3rd seed actually does make a difference, because now you're talking home court advantage and things start to change. So I think that 2nd seed is more important than the 1st in terms of keeping home court and then, you know, keeping distance from that 3rd seed. But at the same time, man, I honestly, all depends who you're going to have to face. Like, if you're facing Miami finishing 2nd, then you need to finish 1st.
Well, so here's the thing. So this is the nightmare scenario right here. Is the Celtics finish in 3rd, which first of all means that Philly, with its toughest schedule, is playing some of the, I mean, they're already playing good basketball right now, but they continue to play great basketball down the stretch. And when you look at the Celtics schedule, that means, you know, and we're going to talk about just leading up to this weekend, they have games against Indiana, San Antonio, Washington. They play Utah again. They play, you know, Toronto, teams on the bubble, Atlanta. Like, those are games that they should, and a lot of those are at home. They should take care of business if they want to maintain that 2 seed or have a chance to grab that 1 seed. So the worst scenario for the Celtics is they fall to that 3 seed. Philly's riding hot. They get that 2 seed. Miami overtakes Brooklyn. They get that 6 seed. Now your path to the finals is against Miami, who you just played a 7-game series with in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and came a Jimmy Butler 3 that, if I had to bet, you know, at the time, I could have sworn, I would have bet my life that shot was going in. I 100% was convinced that Jimmy Butler shot was going in. It didn't. Celtics go to the finals and everything was cool. But you're looking at a 7-game series against the Miami Heat. You're looking at playing Philadelphia without home court advantage, then having to go to Milwaukee, most likely, in the Eastern Conference Finals on the road. That's a daunting task. Can it be done? Yes. Is that the absolute worst scenario right now for the Celtics as we try to with to the best of our knowledge, kind of sort out what the playoff picture could look like. That's what you're looking at if you don't secure that 2 seed, whereas at least you get that 2 seed. There's more opportunity for that first round matchup to be likely the Nets or the Hawks instead of the Heat. And then you get home court against Philly, and you're still going to have to go on the road against Milwaukee, but hopefully your road to get to that point hasn't been quite as brutal. You have a little bit more left in the tank. We'll see what lessons they've learned from last year. And maybe you're a little bit fresher. And we've seen the Celtics win big games in Milwaukee. So if that's because all championship teams are going to have to overcome certain hurdles. But that's what I think the Celtics really have to focus on, is that I think that 2 seed, even though I'll take health over seeding every single day, that 2 seed is going to be very important, like you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's got the most value for me, is just finishing top 2, right?
Yeah.
And this is where
you're playing Milwaukee either way. If you're gonna make the NBA Finals, you're playing Milwaukee, and it's gonna be the toughest series. I think that is really, actually. Here's one quick question, little bit of a divergent here. But between Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly, who we're talking about right now, whichever one of them, because I think those are the 3 teams. One of those 3 teams, in my opinion, will represent the East in the NBA Finals. Is there any team out West you would pick to beat one of those 3 teams?
I think it's matchup dependent, right? Like, I think a healthy Lakers is a good matchup for the
You're
Sixers.
Still considering the Lakers as a team that can make the NBA Finals?
No, I'm just saying, you said out West that could beat them.
Well, but I'm saying a team that could make the NBA Finals.
Okay, so the Warriors are a bad matchup for everybody because they're just so annoying.
But they can't win on the road. They've won 7 games on the road all year. I think I'm done with the Warriors,
man. They're just
I know. I think I'm done though. But
I think the Nuggets, they're having a bad shout at the moment. I still think, like, okay, so I think matchup wise, Philadelphia probably have the best matchups against Western competition because Harden's just such a good initiator. Max is so good. Embiid is Embiid. I think Boston matchup. Well, no, do you know what? No, there is. There is. Phoenix.
That's kind of my point. That's what I was at. Phoenix is the one wild card because we don't know what the hell they look like, right? We've seen 3 games with Kevin Durant, and they could be. They could. I think next year, my guess is just it's. I can't think of. I mean, it's never happened before. The way that if they were to win the championship this year, like this would be so wildly unprecedented. The way that it all went down, no one would ever be able to. Yeah, no one would be able to recreate that. So, but I think, save for the wildest of wild cards in Phoenix, I'm picking Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly over any Western Conference team. So to the point we're talking about getting through the East. Now, obviously, health could make a difference once you get there. But I'm saying if those teams come out, relatively healthy with their main guys, like that could be the championship, is getting through the East, which is why I think this seeding and, where you're going to be and what your path is going to play such an important role in the long run.
But that's why so many people are annoyed about minutes played, right? Minutes per game for some of these guys. Like Mazzulla's ran these guys minutes per game up for a while now, like 38, 39, 40 minutes. And you're like, shit, yeah, everyone's like, it doesn't matter. But I'm like, throughout the season, they add up. And then I think it's inevitable we're going to see at least 2 7-game series. If Boston make it through to the NBA Finals, they're going to go through 2 7-game series. I
think that's right. Especially if they end up with Miami. If they end up with a path that includes, regardless of what the seeds are, if it's Miami, Philly, and Milwaukee, I don't know. I don't know if you can do this. FanDuel, DraftKings, can I put money on that? That we're going a 6-game and 2 7-game series just to get out of the East, if that's the case.
Yeah. And then and that makes a huge difference, especially if the team on the other side goes gentleman's sweep, 6 games. 6 games, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they've got way less mileage on the clock, and the Celtics haven't exactly had a minutes managed season where guys are going to be fresh. They're already dealing with injuries. Smart's got an injured ankle. Tatum's been playing with the injured wrist. Rob Williams is just injured.
We just don't know. We just don't know. Although he looked good. We got to give him his props. Yeah. He looked good in that Kings comeback, but.
There was one possession where he come down from a rebound and just didn't go up the other side of the court, though.
Bro, okay, so I don't know if I've ever rooted for a guy that just injury-wise, I feel like every time I'm watching him, I'm glued to his reactions to when he lands. Like, I don't know. You know how there's lethal shooter and all these other, like, shooting coaches? Can we get Rob a landing coach? Is there a lethal landing coach that we can get that can just help him
skydiving coach? Like, figure out how to land, dude.
It's
It's
something
bad.
that gives me a panic attack every time. But, of course, once again, the health is gonna be an issue, but he did look good against Sacramento. We'll hope that that continues.
And then you've always got to worry about Brogdon. I know he's been touchwood healthy, but history tells us that there's a chance that he might get hurt. And then you've got Al, who's old, like just, and then Derek White is just inhuman at this point. So you have to think about what wear and tear is going on to his body. Like there's concerns everywhere, and the longer series you have to play because the playoffs are so physical. If you've got to do 2 or 3 of them, like you're not the team in the finals that you were in game 1 of the first round because you're just too beaten and bruised. And I think that's a big issue. And that's why I think like there are teams out there that could potentially roll over one because Milwaukee are going to have it the same way. They're going to have at
Yeah.
least 2 7-game series. So are Philadelphia.
Yeah, because if you're in that
whoever,
one spot, you're lining up for a second round series against Cleveland or the Knicks, and
yeah,
those are 2 really good defensive teams. Cleveland has, I think, a higher end potential because of the Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley pops, Darius Garland factor. But with the Knicks, they're going to beat the crap out of you if they get through that
they're
first.
going to hurt
They're
you.
they're going to hurt you like that. They're almost similar to Miami in the sense that, man, that's just going to be a brutal. And they've obviously played the Celtics very well. If the Celtics are to propel to that 1 seed, I mean, both Cleveland and the Knicks have won the season series against the Celtics. So that's not a
Can you
cakewalk either.
imagine? Can you imagine a game 7 or a game 6, depending on how home court falls,
Mhm.
or whatever it is, game 5, well, I don't care, in Madison Square Garden?
It'd be game 6 based on the
Yeah.
schedule. But yeah, that would be pretty epic. One of Greg and I's best friends out here in Austin, our guy Matt Liptag, who's part of our basketball team, we'll be seeing later tonight. Hopefully, going to get 2 dubs for the boys out here tonight for Green with Envy.
You
Uh,
know?
you know it, and yeah, he's a big Knicks fan, and so we've talked about it before that if the Celtics and Knicks end up in the playoffs, we may have to make it. I've never seen a game at Madison Square Garden, and it's on my bucket list. And I think the 3 of us may have to make that happen. So we might get some on scene Green with Envy reporting if
I might
if
have to
that is
go.
the case.